I've been playing Japanese role-playing games for a long time, so-called JRPGs. Some of my fondest memories are from the classics, like Final Fantasy 7, 9, and 10. But other series too, like Star Ocean Till the End of Time and Kingdom Hearts, were truly spectacular. I think much of the enjoyment from these games came from them taking me as a player seriously without feeling the need to tell me everything about themselves before they let me have a go at the controls. Just look at this short comparison between the original Final Fantasy 7 and the Final Fantasy 7 remake. Final Fantasy 7 pulls us straight into the action, so-called in medias res. It only takes a few minutes before we're tossed into our first battle, and there's no instructions or anything. The game just trusts that you will understand which buttons to click. It might sound brutal, but you know what? I understood this as a 10-year-old, and I'm sure millions of other kids did as well. Now, of course, it probably wouldn't have hurt to have some simple directions, but it just wasn't needed. Whatever you needed to know, you understood through trial and error within seconds. The same thing applies to Final Fantasy 9 and 10 as well, although in 10, there's a short tutorial section in the beginning, but this part blends fluidly into the game without annoying menus or instructions, so I don't mind it at all. Now take a look at the Final Fantasy 7 remake and explain to me how any of this is necessary.
Nothing to it.
And here's where game design comes in. How games choose to convey or not convey information, whether they treat the player as a thinking individual, and to which degree explanations and tutorials ruin the flow of gameplay. I believe the game design in many recent JRPGs have been dumbed down or become just downright bad, with a few notable exceptions. And that's what I'll discuss in this video. In short, game design in JRPGs as they relate to the use of menus and how they convey information. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd love it if you left a like and subscribe to the channel. It would help me out a lot. And now, let's get down to it. Like I said, I used to play a lot of JRPGs, specifically ones made by Squaresoft and later Square-Enix. Kingdom Hearts used to be one of these games. It married Final Fantasy with Disney. It was colorful, fun, and dark at the same time, simultaneously silly and childlike, all the while it never shined away from being truly heartfelt and genuine.
Sora, don't ever change.
Huh?
I just can't wait. Once we set sail, it'll be great.
From start to finish, playing this as a kid was one of the most awesome experiences I had ever had, and I could identify with the main character Sora as he tackled friendships and romance, feeling lost in a big world but gaining confidence in himself and overcoming his challenges over time. This unbelievable adventure continued in the second game with an even darker and grander is that a word? Story in the first game. Okay, sorry, I realize I went on a bit of a tangent there, but I just needed to tell you how great I think the first two Kingdom Hearts games really were, and are. And now back to the actual game design of these games. Kingdom Hearts is a much more action-packed game than Final Fantasy used to be, and obviously, some form of instructions are not necessarily bad. Kingdom Hearts has an opening sequence where you're tossed into the gameplay, where you get to know how to fight and how to interact with objects. Now you just heard me hating on instructions in the video, but like I insinuated, not all information is created equal. You see, Kingdom Hearts tutorial shows you these simple instructions and immediately lets you use the knowledge you just received. It's mostly about what a single button mash will let you do, be it jump, hit, or interact, and it's both easily read and digestible. Further, when you're out in the game, there's virtually no other tutorial of its kind other than some brief information here and there, but which, again, are short, few, and far between, and easily comprehensible. What's more is that the introduction tutorial sequence is actually made exciting. Just like in Final Fantasy X, where the tutorial happens organically in the beginning without hard-to-read menus, the tutorial in Kingdom Hearts is built within an opening story sequence. Both you and Sora are new to this weird otherworldly realm, and since you're actually experiencing exciting and sometimes scary moments, you barely notice it's a tutorial at all. This is organic tutorial making at its finest, and developer Squaresoft used to be masters of this technique. Now, let's jump, about 15 years ahead.
A walking, talking snowman! You really are alive!
Squaresoft has long since merged with another company and become Square-Enix, making increasingly bad games in the process. But that's beside the point, at least partially, when we now compare Kingdom Hearts 1 with Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 also has a similar intro sequence to the one in the first game, only this time it's rather simplistic, not as mysterious, and full of fan service, but it's also not the only major place where you're given information. In fact, Kingdom Hearts feels the need to convey information at several points in the game. And every time it does, it pauses the game for you and provides you with a block of text to read and remember. Now, a quick disclaimer. It's true that Kingdom Hearts 3 has some more mechanics than does Kingdom Hearts, but also not that many more. And even if we treat them as different, they're so minor that they could be more efficiently conveyed in-game as small pop-ups rather than screen-dominating, pause-forcing, fascist info dumps. It's so bad that instead of the horrible cutscenes, dialogue, or general story beats, the best part of the Donkey review on Kingdom Hearts 3 had to do with these menus. And he sums it up pretty well too.
Huh? Now we get to play the game. Finally we get, after we learn about expert. Here we go. Alright, what is this now? Let's play the game. I'm actually in the... Just skip. Just wait. I should read this. Kingdom Hearts 3 is one of the biggest glumberfucks I have ever witnessed.
These menus are so bad because they completely stop the flow of gameplay, only to tell you about fairly simple mechanics which could have been presented much more anonymously, or perhaps even just been referred to in their own sub-menus in the main menu, so that you could just look them up whenever you wanted to, which incidentally you also can right now. Kingdom Hearts is not the only offender here. In short then, massive JRPGs, the biggest in fact, suffer from acute bad tutorial design, something these same games never really used to suffer from before. I can only guess one or two things have happened. That the developers think players have gotten dumber, so that they need explicit instructions for everything, or that they themselves have become, if not lazy, then at least not creative enough to create dynamic and immersive tutorial experiences. But luckily, unironically #not all. Because while the issues we just looked at continue to be the norm, one series in particular, another kind of JRPG, has gone completely against this trend. And you might already know which one I'm talking about. Dark Souls. And of course, Demon's Souls 2, and all the other FromSoftware games. This is Dark Souls' approach to information conveying and tutorials. You begin as this crappy and disgusting person who's barely clinging on to life, but instead of being handed an info dump on why or when and how, you get these easy to read, easy to understand tips laying on the ground that tell you how to perform the game's basic functions. The crucial part here is that because you feel so vulnerable in the intro, you're desperate for information. And instead of giving a wall of text that you A, haven't asked for, or B, won't even remember after having read it 3 times because you fell asleep the first 2, Dark Souls make you want information. It makes you crave it. And even if you already know how to play, it's incredibly easy to avoid the instructions or click it away without feeling like you've missed something, because there's nothing to miss. No fluff or expository filler. This is good game design because it specifically succeeds at keeping the player in the game. And I think it's understated how important this is to the overall experience. I actually think such organic information conveying is essential for a game to feel dynamic and fun instead of overbearing and even overcomplicated. It means that instead of me feeling this way,
Kingdom Hearts 3 is one of the biggest glumberfucks I have ever witnessed.
I feel this way.
Thank you, Dark Souls Remastered.
And that, when especially the former happens over and over again, adds up and makes a real difference. Look at it this way. Remember how God of War felt so fluid and smooth? That's because there was not a single black loading screen in that game, and the camera actually never cut to another scene that wasn't directly connected to the first. It felt seamless because it was seamless. And speaking of loading screens, the original Demon's Souls had some fairly long ones, and I'll show you in real time how long it takes to get from one place to another here, so bear with me. That kind of breaks immersion, right? Well, now look at the remake of Demon's Souls and tell me this isn't an amazing achievement which changes up how interconnected the game feels with itself. Even better, both Dark Souls 1 and 2 offer almost complete open worlds, with a few exceptions, where you can theoretically run from one area to another far, far away, meaning that the universe seems handcrafted, natural, and well, real. I think game design as it relates to information conveying is almost equally important, because again, in Dark Souls, you are left engaged and even seeking out this information, while in Kingdom Hearts 3, you're fed up with the information dumps from the very first one. It's interesting that all of these games are from Japan. They're definitely different genres and perhaps also cater to different audiences, but honestly, I think a lot of people who enjoyed the Souls series also enjoy other JRPGs, myself included. In my opinion, Japan offers us both the best and the worst of tutorial design in gaming, and as we've seen, the spectrum is really wide here, with few titles situated somewhere in between the info dump and the no hand-holding poles. What's also interesting is that Western RPGs are overall much better at this type of game design. The Elder Scrolls games hide many mechanics but manages to mostly dynamically convey information to the player. And the same mostly goes for The Witcher 3, who despite some smaller boxes of text, manages to provide short and helpful information boxes that automatically fade away. And even when it pauses the game, it's to the point and something which very rarely happens. Further, Red Dead Redemption 2 does much of the same, making for a more dynamic experience. But none of these are as offhands as the Souls series, and I might be extremely late to the party here, but I think most games, Japanese RPGs in particular, could learn a lot from not only Dark Souls' seamless experience, but their way of conveying information to the player, which is actually to the point and fun to learn. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Fun, not frustration. Fun while learning about darkness, Dark Souls, and the cycle of death.
One more demon downed.
Thank you so much for watching, friends. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.